Now we're gonna have a vegetarian great recipe. What are we gonna use? We're gonna use some leeks. We're gonna use a lot of mushrooms and treat them like meat, and then use the Turkish greatness of bulgur and make a great bulgur pilaf for 2 people with a lot of veggies and an incredible taste. Eating veggies in their season is really crucial. So now it's the season for leeks. Some leeks in your country could be bigger or smaller, not important. We're gonna slice them like this. 2 leeks are sufficient enough. I'm slicing them in a vertical way so that they will look a little sexy. They're not so thick so that like we have big chunks of leeks. When they fry, they're gonna be smaller, but they will have their individualistic existence. I turn on the stove, especially the ceramic pans, which are thick, get some time to warm up. Leeks' green parts are more aggressive, so they have to be a little smaller than the white parts. Exactly the opposite of spring onions. They become chewy when they're medium done. I put a bit of olive oil and then put the leeks. Toss them. If you are not a big tosser, which means I'm not as well, we can practice putting some lentils or something uncooked and putting everything in this side and then have a toss. While they're cooking, I'm going to treat the mushrooms like big chunks of meat because they are almost water. They are going to become smaller, so I leave them in big chunks like this. Leeks are browning really nicely, taking the sugar in themselves out. Now I add a bit of salt. I'm going to add more salt towards later on, but this salt will help the leek to loosen up and then cook in a more balanced way. Actually, the taste and the cooking has an incredible balance, which I cannot put in exact words, but let's say if I cook this a little more without adding any salt, it won't taste as good. Probably the salt helps to break the cells a bit so that the density of the leeks are much better. This is done. I'm going to put them here like this. Some more olive oil. I put the mushrooms in. The mushrooms are really high in water to cook them perfectly. I put a bit of salt, the highest heat on the stove right now, and constantly tossing. We have 3 big garlics. If they are smaller, make them 4. Slice them. Now, as we're treating them like meat, what's happening with a bit of salt and high heat? They are now getting kind of like seared. They have turned into more brownish color like this. I'm going to add the garlic. After the garlic, they won't be inside there very long. And to this, there's an interesting additive. A heaped tablespoon of, this is köfte baharatı, my meatball mixture that you can find on Etsy. What this does is make it more meaty, a bit more oil. Now I'm going to put them in as well, like this. Because there are some spices it might burn, so what I'm going to do, I'm cleaning my pan. This is important. The mixture is breadcrumbs, black pepper, thyme, cumin, coriander, nutmeg, mint, garlic, sweet red pepper. If you're gonna do this like red pepper, some cumin, some black pepper, but the cumin is really important. Garlic is very important. It's gonna give the mushroom a meaty taste and an incredible smell. So that mixture, you can do it on your own. I'm going to add the perfect mixture by just doing with those. But if you have this mixture, it helps a lot. Now, I'm going to put a tablespoon of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil again, because bulgur loves its olive oil definitely. And together with that, few garlic again. I'm going to thickly slice the garlic, so it's going to be an ingredient like this, and at the same time, it will give the flavor to the oil and the butter. And tomato paste. When we make pilavs, we love our tomato paste because it's actually umami. A heaped tablespoon of tomato paste, a really big heap. We call that Refika kaşığı, Refika tablespoon. If you don't have it, you can use tomato puree, about 100-150 grams. And it has to have its share of butter for it to loosen up. First, it's going to have this weird smell, then it starts to smell really nice. Then it's time for bulgur. This is a thick one. You can use thinner ones, but thicker ones are really good in terms of density and it becomes like a risotto. I mix the butter and tomato paste together as if I'm cooking like a risotto for a minute. I add these back to the pilav. In terms of amount, these might look a lot compared to the bulgur, but bulgur is gonna grow in size a lot. So we mix all these up. If you want it hot, you can add a bit of red pepper. We didn't add salt to the bulgur, so for the bulgur, at least 3 pinches because bulgur loves, again, salt. Depends on different types of bulgur, but what I'm going to do, I had 1.5 cups of bulgur. Now I'm adding 3 cups, twice the amount of water. Now, kitchen smells amazing. I'm going to turn this to a low heat to almost like simmering. And we're almost done. What I'm going to do just that, I'm going to clean all this up and then I'm going to grate some carrots and use them fresh. Some fresh taste really goes well. Sometimes I use cucumbers. Small diced cucumbers work really well. And now in this case, some carrots. They really go really well with leeks and adds a bit of sweetness and also freshness. Depending on your bulgur, it might need more water. Taste it in the middle, and if it needs more, add a cup of more water if you like. We turn off the heat while bulgur is still watery. We put a napkin and put back the lid on so that it soaks the extra moist, and it has to wait for at least 15 minutes to settle down. Okay, now, here is that bulgur. As you can see, it's still wet at the bottom. And we add the carrots right now for the freshness. Some greens also can get in.
That's a very, very creative touch.
Yeah, the freshness goes really well, that's for sure. Now, how to serve this? As you can see, the bulgur grew in size. This was meant to be for 2 people, but actually 4 people can really make a meal out of this.
Yeah, I can eat this whole week.
Or like if you want it to be with more protein instead of mushrooms, or with mushrooms you can have some meat.
You're creating a hole. What are you going to put in?
In Turkey, we eat our bulgur with yogurt. Why? Yogurt balances it really well. This is almost done. If you want, for the last minute, this is not a must, but it makes it even more beautiful. Some pickle juice, just like this. But actually, the pickle juice, because it's a bit sour and yogurt is also, they work the same way. With the sweetness of the carrots, sweetness of the bulgur is very, very tasty.
Wow.
So good. Even in Turkey, most people make the bulgur drier, but make it like this more moist. I have learned it from my father, who's from Cappadocia. They were only eating chickpeas and bulgur until he was 18. So it's best to go after his teachings. So make it moist and you get an incredible taste. The tomato, while frying before we put the bulgur, increases the umami. It's like the 5th taste. Makes everything in the dish even tastier. So these are really important tips. As you can see, small amount of bulgur makes a big dish. Very economic, great way to eat veggies with bulgur. Making soup is one thing. We have a nice video here. Using it in bulgur is another way, like this. So nice. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Lots and lots of love from Istanbul.